Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn about the hardest workers in nature. Do you know which animal works the hardest? It's not the honeybee, the beaver, or even the bumblebee. It's the ant. Yes, the ant is the hardest worker in nature. Let's find out why. Hi, I'm here with Minute Earth. An ant colony can contain thousands of individual ants, and all of them must work together in order for the colony to survive. Like most insects, ants need food, air, and water to survive. But unlike most insects, ants typically live in groups, which means they need to share resources like food and water with one another. But sharing resources requires organization. And in an ant colony, there are different kinds of workers that all have different jobs. First, there are the foragers. Foragers leave the nest to find food and bring it back to the colony. When they find a food source, they mark it with pheromones so other ants can find it too. Pheromones are like invisible messages that only ants can see and smell. Back at the nest, there are other ants whose job it is to take care of the baby ants. Some ants guard the nest while others process the food that the foragers bring back. And there are even some ants whose job it is to clean up after the other ants. And although all these different jobs require different skills, every single ant in the colony performs the same tasks at some point during its life. The job an ant does is determined by its age. Young ants take on menial tasks like cleaning up the nest or taking care of the eggs and larvae. As the ants get older, they take on more difficult jobs like foraging or guarding the nest. And as they get really old, their bodies change. Their legs become shorter and their stomachs become bigger, so they can take on the job of processing the food that the foragers bring back. Because ants have these different jobs, and because every ant does every job at some point during its lifetime, scientists consider them to be a highly efficient society, but their efficiency doesn't stop there. Ants are also incredibly strong. Compared to their body size, ants are among the strongest animals on the planet. An ant can lift almost 10 times its own body weight. That's like a human lifting over 300 pounds. But how do we know that ants are stronger than other insects, like beetles or grasshoppers? In 2022, from the University of Sydney, placed 3D printed blocks in front of 12 different insect species, and then recorded whether or not the insects were able to push the blocks. They found that only the ants were up to the task. Although the blocks weighed almost 10 times more than the insects, the ants still managed to move them. But ants aren't just strong once they grow up. Even baby ants are stronger than you might expect. Researchers from the University of Michigan wanted to understand how ants are able to walk on water, so they coated the bottom half of some leaves in a thin layer of water, and then placed small groups of ants on the leaves. They found that even baby ants can walk on water. These super strong and efficient little creatures can even take on one of the toughest jobs of all, finding new ant colonies. Some ants can travel up to 100 miles away from their old colony in search of a new one. Once they find a suitable replacement, they bring food back to the new nest and then lead the rest of the colony there. It's a big responsibility, but it's just another day in the life of the hardest workers in nature. Thanks for watching this episode of my channel. If you want to learn more about amazing animals, check out the series in the description. I'll see you next time.